Hi everyone, it's Veronica Bartolini with Code for Real Talk, Unchained Hearts and Unchaining Hearts. And I wanted to just go live just to say that I was in the Astro 4 nights ago, the night before Donald Trump got shot. I was in a room in a hotel, a private hotel, and I was getting ready to leave. Along with a few friends with the SSP, Super Soldier Community, and I had to leave a few things behind, like food, perishable items. And I was packing, and then I turned to my left, and there is another room there, and I had to go, and it was the White House. It was part of the White House. You know how there's secret tunnels underneath, the Hiltons are connected, you name it. So I went in and I was in a hurry. I was in a suit. In a in a pantsuit, black, and I just had to get some paperwork from this desk. It was a female's desk that had Donald Trump's information to make sure that he didn't make it to the elections. Okay, I told you guys that something like this was going to happen. A lot of us, even Carrie Cassidy and just a lot of us YouTubers, something, he's been threatened. Donald Trump has been threatened. Something's going to happen. He's not going to get killed, but something's going to happen. I kept saying he's going to win. He's going to win the election. And I'm still saying he's going to win. And so I was there getting some paperwork that I needed. I needed to steal whatever was stolen from Trump. It was very specific information. And I also had to make sure that people voted for him. So I was getting all kinds of voting. It had to do with voting. Okay. And there was also some special pins, like red pins around that I had to get. And finally, I took off with it before the lady that had the desk would see me, because she was there with other men in suits and men in black, and I had to get out of there right quick. And so then there's a scene where there's when I'm in the hallway and I see a lion, and I'm like, oh shit! And am I gonna have to take care of another cat or another dog? You know what I mean? Because Lola came to me as a wolf, and she had 11 babies, and behind her, in 2017, she had all these coyotes behind her. And it's not until 2 years ago she appeared to me, and now she's, I saved her with little puppies, and now she's my emotional support dog. Kiki came into me in lion form. There was 4 lions, and Honey came into me as a tiger. And just 3 weeks ago, I rescued a white-winged dove, and my spiritual name is Kumru, the face of God. So anyway, this thing where Donald Trump tweeted, Nibiru is defeated, we win. It is true. They are defeated and they're mad. And we'll see it. We'll see those ships be cloaked. Yes, we're probably going to be in a World War III, supposedly with China or something, and after that, we're going to do the fake alien invasion, but it's not going to really be all fake, because they're going to be showing Lockheed Martin, Raytheon ships and everything decloaked. And I can't wait until they just uncloak everything to where they see the cities. And now in this video that I'm about to share, they say that I always say that the Venusians are underground. Now here in this video, they're saying that the Anunnaki, we are underground, that they built our place here. We're actually underwater, and that's why the sky is blue, they're saying. And I'm like, well, it kind of makes sense, and then I see the 2 rings, the 2 domes that are around us, and there might be more, but I see 2 concave mirrors, so that we can see like the rainbow, we can see the sun and things like that. And I always tell you guys, the sun is the the wormhole that we come through. That is how, as shooting stars, I know I came in as a shooting star, and I'm here as a human now, but I came through the sun, and that's the only way that we're going to get out. Now, they're telling us that, there's a light, and I'm like, yeah, but that's the false light that the Alpha Drakes and the Anunnaki want us to go through. So when I died, because I had a near-death experience back on Halloween of 2010, you guys already know what I saw. But anyway, going back to my astro adventure here, I see the lion coming to me, and then I go to the other couple's place, which is right across, and then I'm like closing the door halfway, and I'm like, what does that lion want? And then the guy to me says, it's going to be okay. So then when I wake up, I go back to the dream and I talk to the light and I'm like, what is it that you need from me? You know, I'm here for you. And the next day, Donald Trump gets shot. Now, my friend, I'm not going to say her name. She's one of my besties. She lives here in town. And she told me the same day, she said, last night, Veronica, I was in a tunnel and I was yelling at people to get out of there. And she was on a secret mission. And I go, well, we must have been together then. Hi, Crystal Clear. How are you? Hola, Rock Cloud, Love One. Hello, mijo. How's everybody doing? So anyway, I just couldn't keep quiet, and I was posting it, and I even posted it to Donald, and even Christy Campbell. She's going to be on the show on the 24th. We'll talk about it more then, but she told me that I was pretty much his right-hand man in this astral situation, and that he trusts me. But you know, this is other realities that we have. These are other realities. And then today I called, my attorney called me because I'm still trying to get my U.S. Army benefits. And he told me he couldn't help me because he has never seen a case like this and that I need more information, more evidence. And I go, what more evidence do you need than my DD-214 and my record? So they keep me as a ghost. And it's also when I was a police officer, the same thing. Why did the shooting happen? Why did this happen? You know, and it's like the military complex, Vanguard, DOD, CIA, they keep us like this, like a ghost, to use us in the secret space program. Anyway, I'm going to show you this video real quick. All right, here we go.
At approximately 2:47 p.m., a congratulatory tweet emerged from the then president, Donald Trump's Twitter account. The message was short and simple. It read, "Nibiru beaten, we win." However, within seconds, the tweet was removed not only from his Twitter account, but also scrubbed from the internet and internet archival data records, resulting in a complete cover-up. The ramifications of the tweet are immense. It tells us that President Trump and others in his administration not only know who the Anunnaki are, but that we are at war with them for our freedom. It also shows that Donald Trump has either read the Sumerian texts or been briefed on them. For those who don't know, the Sumerian texts are the oldest written texts on the planet and predate the Bible by 3,500 years. These ancient texts state that aliens from a planet called Nibiru came to a planet named Tiamat to extract gold. However, the largest amounts of gold was deep in the ocean of Tiamat. So these aliens, who are called Anunnaki, set up a huge dome biosphere underwater by separating the waters and putting a firmament in between the waters to keep them separated. They called this biosphere Earth, which means ground or dirt. And this is why in ancient times men said the Earth was flat, because they knew we do not live on the planet. We really live at the bottom of an ocean. This is why our sky is blue. They then created an artificial sun for warmth and a moon as a base. They also created animals, plant life, and an atmosphere and everything needed to sustain themselves so they could live comfortably while they extracted gold from the ground. When the work became too difficult for them, they made a slave race of people called Homo sapiens to do the work for them. There is proof that what is written in these texts are real, because Homo sapien is 200,000 years old. The Sumerian texts state they first mined for gold in South Africa, where they have discovered over 25,000 ancient gold mines dating back 200,000 years ago. These Sumerian texts also state that when these aliens created modern-day man, they told us they were our God, and this is where our religions come from. Donald Trump knows that our religions are false. These beings are not God. They are aliens with vast knowledge and extremely advanced technology. They have ruled over mankind for 200,000 years on. Keep us in check with false religions and by denying us the true knowledge of who we are. You don't have to believe the Sumerian texts, but Donald Trump does. He knows that humanity has to read those ancient Sumerian texts and accept what they say as truth and facts for us to have a chance at freedom. What we have been told about God and religion is false. There is another ancient text recently discovered that exposes the truth as well. This new ancient text says the very same thing that the Sumerian texts state, that aliens came here and created this biosphere. That they lie and tell us is a planet called Earth. The author of this new ancient text will astound you, because you will never believe who it is. none other than Jesus Christ himself. And that ancient text is called the Talmud of Emmanuel.
Do I think this is the reason Donald Trump got shot? I do. I think he plans on exposing more secrets to you guys and trying to wake you up. All right. Listen, besides Donald Trump in the mainstream world, like, follow me here. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. Besides Donald Trump in the mainstream world, meaning the world where they look at conspiracy theories as being out on the fringe of society. So in the mainstream world, who has ever gave any type of credence to the Anunnaki or the Sumerian text? Nobody.
And that's why they killed JFK too, because he was about to expose the technology and the aliens. Hi,
Silvia. Nobody has given those documents, like even, acknowledged that they are real and have truth in them. Nobody. You understand how big that is? So here, this guy come along, the least likely of people who you would think would even know something like this. This guy sends out a tweet as the president. That's 1 for humankind, 0 for Nibiru. I don't think you really truly grasp what he did. And the reason you don't grasp that is because you have very little knowledge of the Anunnaki and the Sumerian text, which is why I try to tell you to get the soul trap session, because it's all in there.
Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and show you just a short video on YouTube with "Are You a Starseed?" and Starseeds Explained, just a little bit, because my mission, other than being in the secret space program and helping Donald Trump and helping you guys understand that religion is false. You guys are praying to these false gods of the Bible that is man-made. Now, like they said here, go ahead and look at the Sumerian text. Also, remember, I have ties with Tesla, and my great-grandfather worked with Oppenheimer, and this is not bullshit. There's a reason why I'm here. When that light came out of my heart, as I asked, if there's anything that is greater, something that loves me, not the gods of this Bible, not the whole doctrine of religion, not the whole, because remember, also you have to remember that the name Jesus comes from Zeus, which comes from Jupiter. Okay, so you have to remember that we are a God particle. We have a God particle inside us, which a lot of people think that it's in our heart, but in reality, if you look at the movies like Halo, we have in the medulla oblongata, close to there, it goes up to the pineal gland, right in the back though, in the medulla. That is pretty much where our God particle is. If you look at the movies Da Vinci Code, when they trap the God particle, that's pretty much what we are. And I always tell you guys, look at The Expanse, because the season Expanse, where they find that ship that is like full of bioluminescence, and the girl that had died is there. We are that. We are the bioluminescence. We are those crystal beings, okay? The crystalline thing, if you want to call it, that's us. We're plasma, okay? We're not this body. We are immortals. Pretty much our body can keep going, right? But we're not going to be, eating the blood of the children. We're not going to be like the freaking alpha drakes and the Anunnaki. There's good and bad in everything, okay? But we have the meds, okay? It's like when we're done here, people think, oh, yes, of course, we're going to miss our friends and our fathers and everybody that has gone before us, because we miss them physically, okay? When you watch a cartoon and that Buzz Lightyear is leaving, I haven't seen it yet, but Buzz Lightyear is leaving, what's his name? The cowboy. It's emotional, right? It's like you're leaving, but just know, like Max Spiers, I know he's still alive. Like, I know he's still watching over us. Like, if you watch some of my videos with Silvia Vasquez and Jamin Vasquez, they remembered me. a lot of people will remember who you are. A lot of us were using the secret space program. A lot of us are being used as light workers, star seeds. We're crystal children, indigo children. We have a mission here, guys. We have a mission to expose this bad Anunnakis and the bad Alpha Drakes, and there's all these different alien beings want to rule the world. What I call them is the people above the dome. I don't really call them aliens, because the government, as we know, makes the insectoids, they cross me with werewolf, lion, dragon, and mermaid. Like, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? All right, going back to this starseed. We all have a mission here. We all have a mission. And I woke up just watching Max Spiers and remembering everything in 2017 that had happened to me from 2017 to even now. I'm still getting downloads, and I'm still in the astral. You know what I'm saying? So here you go.
All women need to do to be able to identify whether or not they feel like they are a starseed is to look within and examine whether they feel a very strong mission, a very strong purpose toward being able to help heal the earth as well as raise the collective consciousness. Essentially, if you truly care about the suffering here, chances are you're a starseed. Because the number one way that you can recognize a starseed is they're very attuned to the level of pain that's inherent within this human experience, as well as the hypnotic forces that are overseeing and ensuring that humanity stays in a disempowered and unconscious state. Otherwise, starseeds can sense that something ain't right. Starseeds have gone by many names in past ages and even in this age. But as we evolve and our perception matures, more information unfolds into a larger context. Of course, there would be other variants of consciousness and other realms a being would inhabit other than strictly the third dimensional Earth school. In fact, it is quite egotistical to believe that humans are all that exist in this multiverse. Even though the concept of starseeds can definitely be used to manipulate the human ego into a false sense of superiority, in reality, starseeds are simply souls who have incarnated into the Earth life system from other dimensions in order to assist humanity's future timelines. Specifically, they are here to assist in awakening humanity out of the draconian future timelines that are represented by the military-industrial complex, poverty consciousness, and trauma-based mind control. The draconian timelines lead the human race to a future of authoritarianism, much like what was foreshadowed in the classic 1984. However, there is a huge twist in the way that this is achieved. It is achieved under the guise of love. The draconian timelines have understood the only way they will be able to gain the free will of humans to create their own captivity is through the guise of love. A false love from a false light that slowly enslaves the human race by making them believe that it is there to protect them. And so starseeds are here to share all of their many different gifts with humanity so that we align with future timelines where we spiritually evolve and access our power as source incarnate. The biggest issue when it comes to this subject is that the term starseeds inherently implies that humans aren't of the stars or don't have celestial origins, when that's not the case. Humans are a microcosm of the entire universe. However, to be fully identified as solely a human and only relating and resonating with all of existence through a human identity is such a low consciousness state that what's really going on is the fact that the human form is in a state of spiritual amnesia, where they have disconnected from the higher aspects of their own energy field and their totality of their soul. More to the point, what we refer to as an average human are souls that have only had incarnations in the Earth life system. Because of this, they are called Earth souls. Earth souls still contain all of the information in the cosmos within their energetic template, but it is not accessed. If they were to begin to activate it, they could easily shift into new timelines where all of a sudden they have these future outcomes that suddenly exist, where they've had several lifetimes off planet or in other star systems. The reason this would manifest instantly once an Earth soul activates the potential held in their energetic blueprint is because time is an illusion. All there really is feedback loops. And so what starseeds are in relationship to what humans are is beings who have incarnated into the earthly realm and into a human experience so that they do not violate free will. If a resident from a higher plane of consciousness or a higher density truly wishes to be of service to their brothers and sisters, then they're already aware that they cannot stunt that being's development. And they would interfere with that being's evolutionary process and their growth by violating their free will by simply appearing to them. That's what negative forces do. They manipulate through all sorts of ways that have to do with violating a being's free will. But to truly be of service, those residents would incarnate as a human and then influence beings or humanity at large through the human vessel, through the human experience, because then you're not violating a being's free will. And so by doing so, that's what true love is all about. It's knowing that you can't just appear from anywhere and then be able to have people who are not ready for that reality or who are not at a mature level consciously to be able to accept that fully on their own and by their own right if you were to just go ahead and interfere with their own process. So that in and of itself is not honoring a being's maturity. It's not honoring their own journey, their own development, and it's not honoring, therefore, their own free will. So what starseeds do is they come into this experience, and by doing so, they go through the veil of forgetting. And when you go through the veil of forgetfulness, you are by no means superior at all to a human experience. You are human for all intents and purposes. But what you have is a very strong desire, a very strong mission towards helping humanity. And that's really your only guiding light. They incarnate into the Earth life system over lifetimes, playing out both the predator end of the spectrum and the victim end of the spectrum to fully understand the system that.
Now, I myself do not agree with being a predator. I believe that I am a very good, beautiful soul, like a lot of you are. And what happens is this darkness engulfs you. Like, say, like with me, I went, through the shooting, through a divorce, through my father's suicide. I went through rape here on Earth, not just over there in space, but molestations as a child. So what they do is these entities want to overtake us, right? And so when you are in darkness because of what happened to you, you start hurting other people. But it's not because you're a predator. It's not because you signed up to be a predator. I myself don't believe in that. But because we are really good souls, like a lot of people call Source God. But the thing of it is if you listen to Ashiana Dean, she talks about the different races. And I believe that when they talk about the matrices, that these beings got stuck and everything. And when they talk about Source, to me, I feel that they've taken Source. Kind of like I see it like we belong to a crystal. And if you've ever seen the skis, I can't even watch. The other day I tried watching the Dark Crystal again. And it hurt to watch those ugly beings. Like, they're horrible. They're like the Alpha Drakes and the Anunnaki who don't give a F about humanity and just want to steal our light, which is our gold. That's why the Anunnaki came and the others for our gold. And in actuality, it's us. We are beings of gold. We have to take care of the gold that is in our spinal cord, which is, that's when we have the Kundalini experiences of our awakening as well. Okay, I'll play a little bit more, and if you guys want to ask questions, let me know.
And that's in place here, and technologically innovative. Well, Syrians are known.
Anyway, she goes into the Syrians.
Of course, they would be perceived off their current conditioning, as well as the programming that was imprinted upon them. So starseeds have a relatively easier time than most people when it comes to deprogramming themselves. So what's really typical is that a starseed will choose a specific lifetime to activate their remembrance. And the lifetimes before that activation occurs, their true identity is held in a dormant state from them, while they're incurring human experiences and while they're incurring information and data. Once they have chosen a certain lifetime to activate their remembrance, they set up certain triggers within that lifetime. And at these different triggers, they're being triggered into a deeper awakening of why they came there and what their mission is. Some of our missions are meant to be spiritual warriors. Some are meant to be grid workers. Some are meant to be spiritual healers or sages. And some are meant to be a catalyst and way shower in some capacity. So we all are drawn and compelled to whatever region that we feel our strong suits and our skills are most needed. A very common misconception is when a being believes that they are only from one starseed lineage. And that's because when we come into this life, we come in with one ratio that's dominant and one that's mainly activated. But through our own journey, we start activating more and more ratios. So we're actually not one dominant lineage, even though we choose and reside and resonate with one dominant lineage. The reason why we come in resonating with one dominant lineage at first is because the skill sets and the gifts from that lineage are the ones that are going to be the most relevant for our mission and our journey. But as we go along our own path, what unfolds and what gets activated is the ratios from all of our lineages. So as we grow and as we mature, we start embodying and activating the gifts from all of the different celestial origins that we encompass. So with higher dimensional, angelic-like beings, known as starseeds, being the stewards of humanity, naturally this entire paradigm got hijacked. And that's what we have seen within the recent years when it comes to the starseed paradigm. There has been a huge targeted co-opt to specifically dumb down this entire concept, as well as the people who consider themselves starseeds. It has been distorted and distorted and distorted and infused with so much controlled oppositional tactics and counterintelligence that this entire paradigm has become stupefied. This whole concept, along with several of the starseeds themselves, have been successfully targeted and co-opted until their frequency has lowered and lowered until it's been reduced into nothing better than raccoon talk. They sound absolutely crazy at this point, and it's because there has been a polarization that's occurred where they are polarized into the very system that they were meant to come here and to break humanity out of. So they got caught into the polarization, controlled opposition tactics that have now created fundamentalism within them, whether it's fundamentalism in one direction or fundamentalism in another direction. They're stuck in a lowered frequency now from the very system that they came here to help humanity transcend. So as you can tell, the biggest pitfall to a starseed is falling into the matrix that they meant to awaken humanity out of and getting caught in it themselves. In fact, the entire starseed paradigm has been intentionally infused with elaborate maps and elaborate off-planet groups specifically designed to groom the starseed's mind back into the matrix. And so what we see today is also an organic and a synthetic awakening that's happening. One where there's, once again, social engineering through elaborate prophecy and elaborate times tables, through off-planet groups, through different maps we're using, all through different concepts that have truth to it, such as starseeds, but are used in a way where it's being led down incrementally a false light path, as well as an organic evolution of consciousness, which is also being stewarded by higher dimensional beings in human form. So we got a lot going on. It's also very common for us to believe that starseeds are here for strictly benevolent and selfless reasons, when in reality, what we have found is that along our own evolutionary journey, we can only progress so far. We can only evolve so far until we hit a proverbial wall, so to speak. And this proverbial wall is that we are all one in essence. And so because we are all one, our own journeys, our own evolutionary pathways are actually intertwined and interconnected inextricably with the human race. And so because of that, we act as stewards for the human race in order for our own progression and our own evolution. Now, this doesn't mean that we don't care or that compassion is at.
Okay, I'll just go and show you a little bit of Max, because I knew Max in Mars, and when I found out he died, I didn't know who he was until I awakened up. See, and then I had my memories come back, and what he talks about is pretty much what I know and what a lot of you know, and I just feel like we got to keep going with what Max believed as well. And I get really upset that, the people that hurt him, that killed him, are still at large in our community.
Max on a rainy day. Rainy. But blood group B, okay, GLFs. Okay.
So there's going to talk about the different blood groups. I do have 4 classes available if you guys are interested, or I did post some of the notes, I did post some of the videos, but here's Max.
from a researcher that's been with the BASIS project for a very long time, is doing a heck of a lot of work specifically involving the Nazi bases,
Right.
the concentration camps that Barry King was referred to in Germany, and the use of concentration camp victims in precise blood groups. And you concurred that she was just messaged me saying that the Germans are interested in blood group B, and they used this in a programmable generator life forms so they could then take grey souls.
Right, and you superimpose that into the body. Okay, I think that the Germans are not only interested in blood group B. I think they're also extremely interested in any of the rhesus negative blood, particularly O negative and actually AB negative. AB negative is the rarest of all of the rhesus negative blood groups. But going back to B, B positive or B negative blood group works like a hive blood group, works like a hive mind blood group. Not to say that anybody who has B blood is not an individual themselves, it's just on a collective level. They are working for a single agenda without knowing it. So if you could amass a huge amount of people with blood group B, then you could have a sort of an army working for you, and each individual would be unknown that they were actually part of the collective.
Well, that would be some kind of a gang stalking situation then, where you could get an awful lot of people who would respond to that.
Well, yeah, because there's a lot of people who have blood group B.
Now, it's interesting from my point of view, and also some more work that's been, data that's been published, is on Andrew Power has written a very important book about Ireland, Land of the Pharaohs.
Yes.
And Ben Hospital Porter has done a bit of an analysis on that. I had a chat with Andrew Power. He's Andrew Power is somebody who's did some research about the matrix control of Ireland and how the Battle of Roy was actually a ritual and not a battle. Mm-hmm. But the important thing about this is another person has found out that Northern Ireland is very highly rhesus negative.
Okay.
So from the point of view of programming people,
yes, it's a lot easier to do. And that's why you have, Northern Ireland is a extraordinarily locked down facility, and okay, the upside to having O negative blood or rhesus negative blood is that it has and absorbs a much higher amount of oxygen into it. So the body allows far more oxygen into the blood. So, for example, if you were a runner, or if you were a fighter, or if you did anything physical, your endurance would be longer and you would be more explosive. The downside to having rhesus negative blood is that they run out of steam very quickly. They have to stop and they have to regroup and then go again. The O positive blood has a much longer endurance. It's not explosive. So if you had an army of rhesus negative an army of rhesus negative, then they would be excellent in a very short time. They could destroy something that's necessary very, very quickly. It's just that only lasts for a very short period of time. They're very explosive, but then they burn out quickly.
so you use a hit hard,
and then pull out, and then use your endurance.
Yes.
But they do hit harder than any other of the bloodstreams, and then there's the nature of the blue blood, because the oxygen into the blood, and it's a higher copper content. Thus, when oxygen hits the blood, it turns a slightly bluish color.
Yeah. So is that related to the Greys or reptilians or the two families?
Most all of the reptilian beings, the Alpha Draconis, and if there's 6 or 7 types of reptilians that are on this planet. Some snakes, some velociraptor looking, some actually look like dinosaurs, but generally the shape-shifting ones all have rhesus negative blood. You don't, okay, so with the super soldier topic, the benefits of having the rhesus negative are that it is easier for the queen, quote unquote, queen bee to take control of all the rhesus negative because they are working like that. But they do have O positives working also with them. It's just the O positive are a lot more difficult to control, but through trauma. I mean, it's like we were talking about earlier, a lot of the children die when they go through this process, but the ones who do survive, the O positives that do survive, are extremely beneficial to that because the endurance goes on and on and on and on and on.
So what about the current situation? The last interview you mentioned a lot of the children had died in your program.
Yeah.
Can you really describe what your program involved? And of course, this connects us with James, who's now been arrested.
Okay. So I have flash sort of memories, and they start from really when I was at the first school that I went to, which was in Sussex, and I started to have memories then. And then after that, they were sporadic. So after that, I sort of remember so first of all, maybe 5, 6, 7 years old, then nothing. And then more like 11, 12, 13 years old. And then when I sort of blocked it out. Then as I reached my mid to late 20s, I wasn't able to block it out anymore. I think that I began to use drugs or alcohol because I didn't want to face what was going on.
When did you start this? When did it start?
Well, in terms of self-abuse in that way, well, it started when I was very, very, very young. When I was 2, 3, 4, 5, I have multiple memories of things coming into my room, and it always happened in the room, and they were some nasty things.
What do you mean by nasty?
Sort of intrusive sexual things. I remember seeing a lot of witches, sort of minds like stereotypical looking sort of witches. I would be taken out of my bed. I'd sort of float up above my bed, float up through the roof of the house, up further and further, and I'd go through a set of black clouds. I'd go above the black clouds, and then I'd sort of see even more, almost like a stereotypical looking Macbeth. The witches of Macbeth sort of around a cauldron, and they'd be cackling. And then when I'd see that, I'd go into shock and I'd freeze, and then I'd kind of.
And then when I usually, real quick, will cover the mirrors and especially the televisions because I see a lot of shadows going in and out. So even as a child, I was scared of the monsters under my bed. My grandmother would see people in her closet, and then she would have me close the closet, and I'm like, I'm a little kid, grandma, like I'm scared too, and throughout my whole life, just being followed, and even in dreams. Here we go though.
Blackout and feel myself lying back in the bed again. So because this went on continuously when I was very young, and I used to call for my parents, and then after a while they stopped coming, so I had to start dealing with it myself. Now
my son, for the past 3 nights, has been paralyzed, and I have to wake him up. I have to actually move him. But with me, I tell my kids, don't touch me when you want to try and wake me up because I go for the throat. So my kids are being used in Secret Space program. My daughter's in the Kruger program. My son, according to Christy Campbell, Michael Casball, I told her I had a memory of my son being taken and he was put in a headlock, and they wanted me to go work with the darkness, the Dark Lords. I had worked with Dark Fleet and Knockwaffen and Solar Warden, but I didn't want to go back to work for the bad Alpha Draconis when I was, in space anymore. And I had told them no. And they said, if you don't come back to us, we're going to take your son. And according to Christy Campbell, she said that it was Michael Prince trying to get my son to work with him. And I said, no, because I'm on Max's side. And even though I know Michael, a.k.a. Prince, I just don't want to go back to working with the darkness. You know what I'm saying? Hola, Marcel. How are you? And here we go again with Max.
I was 15, 16, 17. Or I've sort of forgotten that had happened. When I was 15, 16, 17, something happened, and something triggered me. And I think it was probably a very close friend of mine said something, and I had a click in my head, and I remembered all the things that had happened again.
What happened?
All the things I just talked about, which were the unpleasant things as a kid, they all came back at once.
Do you think, when did that happen? I mean, do you think you were being deprogrammed or something?
I think something was happening where, the main thing that they didn't want me is to ever remember anything like this. They want me to remember. They want me to think that I had a straight, normal sort of life with its ups and downs that everybody had, but this is my reality is this, and that's what it was. And when I started to remember when this happened when I was 17, I freaked out. I panicked, and when I panicked, I had all these flashes back that when the sun started to come down, I started to get this terrible feel like something.
See, and that's what happens to me. Like, I have to go walk when the sun is coming down, and I have to walk home when it's dark. Even when I was married and I was a police officer, I was married also to a police officer. I usually work double shifts, so I was happy working graveyard and double shifts. But when I was off at home, 2 days off or whatever, as soon as the sun is coming down, even to this day, I get paranoid. I'm like, fuck, I gotta, excuse my language, I gotta get out of here. You know what I'm saying? Like, I gotta go do something. So, anyway, I don't know if it happens to you guys, but it's just, it sucks. Anyway.
Something bad was going to happen.
So what was the sun?
I don't know what it was really, but I was fine. I would usually, this is in England, I would usually be fine up until about 6 or 7 o'clock. And then when the sun started going down and started getting dark, all these feelings started to invoke inside of me, like whatever happened when I was a kid was about to happen again. So I started to self-medicate, and I found I used to drink wine with my...
What do you mean by self-medicating?
So I used to drink wine with my mum when I was 17, 18, and I found when this started to happen, I found I'd have a glass of wine, or I'd have a beer or whatever, and slightly these feelings and these memories would subside. So I'd sort of worked out, well, shit, if I don't want to feel these things anymore, so I found something that will repress them. So that was around 17, 18. And when I learned the medication, how to self-medicate, it sort of perpetuated itself from there. So then I learned, okay, well, I don't want to feel that way. I'm going to do whatever I can to not feel that way. So what happens is when you keep repressing and keep repressing and keep repressing, it sort of becomes like a boiling point. You can only repress to it to a certain extent before everything comes out in one go. There had been a number of times through my 20s when I had realized that that addiction had become part of me, not for fun, but it had become part of a way of life for me because I didn't want to address any of those things. And it does work very well, because if you use that, you can basically believe or convince yourself that none of this stuff ever happened. Leading on from there, as I turned towards 30 years old, I had a complete snap.
In the Monarch program,
yes,
it seems that once you hit about 30, the Monarch program starts.
It seems to me that the alters and the programming start to bleed through and break down around that age. So and I was part of alpha programming, beta programming. Alpha being there's delta programming as well. So I was actually thrown into all of those things, but they started to bleed through. I turned 30, just past 30, 31, and there was nothing I could do about it. Delta.
Those categories of programs, just
yeah. Delta programming generally is a form of assassination or a form of getting information.
So I posted, Chad is helping me write my book. We already have 69, magical number, 69 pages. And hopefully by December, we'll have a book out. but oh gosh, I lost my trail of thought. So oh yeah, okay. So I've been posting some of the pictures of my Assassin Creed and the Hulk and other Venus, other altars that I have with the help of Chad and AI. So that's pretty cool. Here we go with Max again.
Through physical means. Yes. So this is it's sort of your basic military attack programming. That's what that is. That's Delta. Beta programming is used 80%, usually 80%, which is Monarch, 80% of women, and there are 20% of men which you use, which is also sexual programming. So giving and receiving information through sexual means. So a spy would be able to go meet up with somebody, have sex with them, and then download the information that was necessary from the person to collect it into their cells, and go back to whoever you are working for, have sex with this person, and then download the information to this person. So it is all done through that means.
Now, how do they do the download?
How do they do it?
Now, when you say download, you sort of look at somebody's eyes.
Okay, so as soon as the sexual act is done, then the two energy fields of the people merge. And if you are shown or trained in a specific way, most often unconsciously, then this information is then downloaded to the energy field of that person. And then you can be hooked up to a machine, or you can have sex with somebody else.
So if you guys look at Sabrina Wallace, she talks a lot about our aura, because our aura is 80% of our body, and that's how these things are transferred.
And that person gets the information. It's being done a lot by the Russians. They're sending out 13, 14, 15-year-old girls out into certain areas in the US and the UK, and sex acts will be done with high businessmen, and then the information then will be taken and given back to where the kid.
A lot of the people that I was used for here were military and police. Most of the people that I was sent to were military and police. Others were just people that had been criminals that had just gotten out of prison, or anyway, it's crazy how a lot of us were used with these programs. So now, like I tell everybody, just go celibate, because it's we got to take control, and say no more.
With high businessmen, and then the information then will be taken and given back to where the KGB, if that exists. You know what I mean?
So it's been still in use. It's very effective.
It's very effective, because nobody thinks that is the way that it's done.
And then the whole point is that the actual person themselves doesn't know that they've got the information.
Yeah, absolutely, most often.
Right, and then the other thing is that if you get rid of that person, your resources, you haven't really expended too much resources.
No, because there's plenty of other ones who can do the job again.
Now, is this where these children are collected?
Okay, so going back to that, so when I was talking about the children who were involved in this, so I'm going to mention Montauk, which is just off of New York. I'm not exactly sure that I was in Montauk, but when I look at it, it is very familiar to me. But wherever I was, it was an identical layout and setup to the Montauk experiment. And then there are a number of other ones just exactly like that.
This is very important, because Lisa is doing an awful lot of work on this, and she's collaborating with Peter Moon, who's written a lot of the Montauk books.
Yes.
There's a whack of stuff going on there, connecting with this concentration camps.
Yeah.
But there's smoke signals which indicate that Rutland Manor,
yes,
and Warminster, very close to Devizes in Wiltshire, may have had some kind of involvement with this stuff, but that's only just little whiffs of smoke. The thing is that a previous soldier who's spoken is saying that the stuff that he was exposed to was in the artillery. It's just horrendous stuff.
Yeah, in terms of that.
Now, as far as Peter Moon goes, I did talk when I had the interview with Tom Althouse and Chad, we were talking about the HARP. The military complex and different HARP facilities will have what Douglas Dietrich called like a plasmoid being or a god. and they have them pretty much in there, and that HARP can manipulate the weather. And if, for example, a LiDAR detector or say a Tomahawk would be like riding around there to inspect what is in, why is that building empty? Well, they would just see it empty, and they couldn't see the plasma, quote unquote, God that Dietrich says. And he says that they have to have golf courses for a reason, and there's rewards for them and things like that. But I feel that something's going to happen major again before the elections. Here we've been getting a lot more monsoons, and it started earlier in June instead of like the middle or the end of July, even the first week of August. Now it started in June. So I'm thinking maybe what they want, the deep state, is, to make it extremely cold, or the weather will be ramped up to where the power grid will go down and nobody will be able to vote. That's what I'm seeing. But something major is, and then of course there's a talk of another quote unquote bird flu and all that crap. So here we go again with Max.
In terms of that, what I have seen is I've seen those spiders that are about. When I see them, I'm in an in-between state. It's not like I can look up and see them now, and it's just before I fall asleep, or if I'm in an in-between state, that's when I see them. And they're about this big, and they seem more mechanical than actual beings, and I've seen them many times, and sometimes maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 of them crawling across the ceiling. Not only that, when I was living in an apartment in Los Angeles, I fell asleep one time, and I knew I was under attack at that moment, and I heard these things rushing and across the ground, and they were squeaking, and they were sort of scuttling around, and when I looked at them, I could see that they sort of looked, I know it's going to sound strange, like gremlins. They looked like actual from the movie Gremlins, and they sort of seemed to be mischievous things to cause sort of more chaos, and they always seemed to be around when there was these shadow beings around too. So whatever these little scuttle things are controlled. And
a lot of people, when I see these things,
the ones that run along the ground,
scuttlers. I saw them first at a transmitter. Kerry Cassidy says she's seen them. Lisa's seen them. Some of the crop circle people have seen them. Big things, very large ones.
Yeah, these ones I see are about this big, and they look like gremlins. They have ears like that. They have teeth.
I've seen those too in my astral.
Yeah, they make noise and they laugh, and they're just like mischievous, like running around things.
And they're not nice.
No, they're not nice, but they're not evil. But they're mischievous, and they're working for something. They sort of hide things, and they sort of they bring around sort of negative.
Them, along with some of the negative fae, because I'm also connected to the fairies. You should see my ears. I was made fun of, and as when I was in the police academy because of my ears, I'm like, leave me alone. But anyway, they've hidden like my watches, and then there was one that I couldn't find my citizen for maybe a week, and finally, and I'm not going nuts or anything. It's like, give me back. You have to tell them, hey, give me back whatever you stole from me.
Energy too. That ties in with something that, if I can just say this ties in with something very bizarre that happened. I was living in an apartment 222, which ties in with these things. This was in Los Angeles, and one morning, I got a letter in the mail, and the letter was addressed to me, and it was from something called the Neptune Society. And I'd driven when driving down Ventura Boulevard in Los Angeles, there's this huge building. You can't really see, there's windows, but you can't really see anything about it. And on the top it says Neptune Society. That's all, there's nothing else. So I'd seen it since I was a kid. I never knew anything about it. I received a letter in the mail. It said the Neptune Society. I opened the letter, and all the letter was saying says, "Dear Mr. Spiers, have you ever considered being cremated when you die. Cremation, and it gives me all these reasons why cremation is a far better way to go than being buried. And it was about this long, and it was a sign at the bottom. If you have any more queries or anything else, please don't hesitate to contact us. So I left it on the side of the breakfast area where I was, and then I went to sleep that night. Well, at 3 o'clock in the morning, I woke up, and I heard this crackling sound. I sat up, and the whole of my kitchen was on fire. All the front of the breakfast area was on fire. The food was on fire. The flames were like coming off like this.
Was this actual or virtual?
It was actual flames.
All right.
All the top of the thing was burned, and the letter that was on there had completely burned out. I ran up, I jumped, I put the fire out, and also all the gas was turned on. All the gas from the oven was turned on. Now,
that would be one way of cremating you.
Yes, I thought that was extremely.
Probably doesn't do a very good job, though.
I had feelings it was connected to the Hellfire Club, and because
I mentioned the Hellfire Club is interesting because I think it involves Jimmy Savile and also the methodology of Marie Kayali's daughters.
Really?
Attempted incineration in hospital.
They like that. There's something about the element of fire which allows these beings to come.
The ring of fire.
Yes. Well, then you go back to the Johnny Cash song. The Ring of Fire. Johnny, he's talking all about that. That's what he's talking about. It's a hellfire ritual. But when I got up that morning to leave the house, there was a black Suburban, tinted windows Suburban sitting outside the front of my building, and on the license plate it said "Blow You Up." And as I woke up,
so they were basic. That was in the dream.
This is real.
Oh, this is real.
The flames were real. Waking up was real. The car was real.
So they're basically letting you know.
That was 2011 that happened. And you know what day it happened? It happened on August the 12th. And August the 12th is a very specific day because it is connected when Sirius is at its highest point in the sky. August 11th, 12th, and 13th are called the dog days because the dog star is the most visible. Now, Crowley got married on August the 12th because he sees it as when Sirius has its highest effect on this planet, and he was trying to bring in an.
That wouldn't happen every August the 12th, would it?
What's that?
It doesn't happen every year, would it?
What doesn't happen every year?
But Sirius would have its most.
Yes. Every single year.
Okay.
And at that point, so there are negative and positive factions coming from Sirius. He was trying to open doorways to bring the certain ones from Sirius through here. When I started to get close to what was going on with that and what was going on with the dog days, they wanted me out. And I was okay. It was fine. But there was a couple of other things on the 13th of August and the 14th of August, there was a couple more attacks that I had. Out of nowhere, my whole apartment became infested with cockroaches within a 24-hour period. Cockroaches coming out of everywhere. So
now, is that an actual placement of them, or is it somebody materialize them in? Or?
I think that I was being. It was the heaviest attack that I've ever had.
I mean, this is the kind of thing you only sort of see in horror movies.
Yes, and it was absolutely real. On top of that,
how did you get rid of them?
I went and told the landlady. I said, "This is going on," and I had to stay out of the apartment for a week, and she sprayed everything and got rid of the majority of them. They didn't come back.
Has this happened to other people? I mean, was it just a dirty apartment, or
no,
maybe a part of the block? I mean, was this something?
No. It was a very nice apartment, and it was. But then the number of the apartment was 222, which is a resonance of me because that's my birthday, 222. But
and the important thing about resonances is that's a mechanism of getting things through.
Yes, and the 222 is also a doorway. Right next to the front door of the apartment, there was a hole, an archway like this, and 3 o'clock in the morning again. On the 13th, I think, I thought I got out of bed. I went to go over. I heard a noise, and something came out of the wall. What it was, I think I was dreaming, but I was half dreaming, half awake. It looked like the stereotypical what predator looks like. I don't know what they are. I'd never seen one before, but when it came close to me like this. It was still for a second, and then it screamed in my face to invoke as much fear as possible.
You know what's funny is that 2 months ago I was in the astral, and I saw a sheepdog, and then I touched it, and it's like a rug fell off of it, and then I looked at it, and it was a predator dog looking at me, and it licked me, and I'm like, ooh, gross. It was weird.
I had learned at that point, I was had a deep understanding of solfeggio and sound harmonics, and I knew the harmonics to do with my voice to try and help it, to try and get rid of it. I did the sound, which is the hue, HU. It's a certain frequency sound, and when I did it, it sort of blended, got back into there. This period of time.
This is important. I mean, it wouldn't necessarily be that sound from anybody else's voice. For your voice,
yeah,
it works.
Yes, yeah, the hue sound. Yes,
Yeah,
you can find that on YouTube.
Yeah, but for other people, it wouldn't necessarily work.
It would, if you
because of basically the resonance of the voice.
Yeah,
is the important thing.
Yes. There are certain sounds. There is a certain sound that they cannot stand. That they panic and they run away from. And
well, like in this spoof science fiction comedy film, Alien Invasions of Mars, whatever it is.
Oh, Mars Attacks.
Mars Attacks.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth in that movie.
They used yodeling country music as a hint.
That's funny. Yeah, right. Yeah. So that was I stayed in that.
Just while we're on the movie, anything in that's just true that.
Well, I don't know the movie as well. I know They Live, and in the movie They Live, and in They Live, there is a sound, there is a frequency. I don't know if you remember towards the end that Roddy Piper goes to, and it's a frequency that's being beamed out, which enables these aliens to look in human form. And when he breaks this frequency, then they're all seen. Yeah, I've noticed since we've changed to digital now, my senses have become extremely heightened, and even when I'm just listening to the TV, or even when you turn the volume down, I hear this sound frequency coming from the television that completely messes with my pineal gland.
Now, this is important because another member of the base's back room, so to speak,
right.
The thing is that he had devised a device to encrypt records on CDs so that it wouldn't be able to be copied.
Right.
But it was a type of acoustic thing as opposed to some kind of digital trademark encryption.
Right.
And when he played this in the record executive of the board, a number of the board just freaked out because they were reptilian.
So completely freaked out, I'm sure, yeah.
So there's a particular sound
that they cannot stand, yes. Because it alters the holographic projection that they're keeping. And I think it's a misconception that they are actually shape-shifting. Some are, but it's a misconception. What they're actually doing is altering your visual cortex to make you think you're seeing them that way.
Absolutely, yes.
And this is very important as well. Because you can that's the truth. They're not actually looking that way. They've just manipulated your mind to think that they are.
And that must work through all kind of visual media. Otherwise, you'd see a lot of these aliens walking around.
Absolutely, yeah. I've noticed a lot of newsreaders because they're doing that as an indoctrination and conditioning. If you look at newsreaders, because they're the ones who are in your house every day. Look carefully at the newsreaders. It's slowly drip, conditioning you to accept.
BBC is the worst, I think.
Yes.
I mean, ITV, I can't watch it.
I heard somewhere that the true acronym of BBC, and it's not British Broadcasting Company, and I can't remember it now, but you might want to look into that. Yeah. Also it comes up to 7, nice. B2, and C3. 7 is the number of the surfing.
Right. And it's interesting that in the early days of broadcasting, it was a British Broadcasting Company.
Ah, okay.
Not corporations.
Not corporations, so now it's okay.
Yeah. So a lot of things. There's some radio amateurs who have tweeted about broadcasting. Something happened.
Yes.
They're beginning to see like when broadcasting started, and we adopted the types of broadcasting we use.
Sure.
They've noticed that something started to happen in society.
Yes.
And this, of course, links with my stuff with Caroline and all that sort of thing.
Okay, that's good.
Waffling about that. MK for switching off early.
Yeah. Okay, so I can tell you what happened then. So in March of 2008, I was living in a shared house in the north part of the San Fernando Valley, which is in Los Angeles, and I started. I mean, I've never I never had voices in my head. I never had that. I never had that before. I just sort of had an understanding. But that night in March of 2008, right around, just after when Heath Ledger died, and Heath Ledger, he played the Joker in Batman. Well, he died on January the 22nd, which is interesting because the number 22 is in sync with the Joker card and the Fool card in the Tarot card deck. And so there was, there's all the...
and being a Joker and all that.
Absolutely, yes.
So you're suggesting that basically the Batman movies has got some kind of ritual magic involved?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, absolutely. And
why was he murdered? What did
he was murdered. His real father wasn't the father that that is shown to the public. His real father was a very famous actor, and I've forgotten his name now. He did a lot of theatre in the 50s, 60s. I forget his name. When I remember it, I'll let you know.
Why is it necessary to have a different father than your real?
Well, they often will take
in the public domain.
They'll often take, because they don't want any association, and they like to try experiments, and a lot of it is lab rat stuff to test out. But
I mean, there's also you get lumbered with being so and so's father, and nobody watches you because of that.
Right.
Oh,
yes.
So just we'll make sure it plugs in.
Anyways, so in March of 2008, some strange things started happening to me. I had some extremely vivid dreams, and then I got taken out of my body and shown that my life, as I thought it was not. The memories that I had, my childhood memories, were not what I quite thought they were. And for about a 2 weeks period of time, I was shown memory after memory after memory of what was really going on. And I remember being shown and taken to underground facilities at different points, some of them in Sussex, some of them in Kent, and some of them with people who I knew from school, but I would have no clue that they were involved at all. And I would sort of come to on a minibus, or a bus where there were three of us on one side, three of us on the other side, and sort of in a dazed state. And then we'd go somewhere and then black out again. And this sort of led for me to, I was seeing it from in the corner of the room, but we would being given tests, and they would give something.
Who was giving you?
Okay, so there was a woman at the front.
How was she dressed? I mean,
she was dressed not uniform, but very well dressed. Dressed up as if she was a banker or a businesswoman.
Well, that was implied that it's in some very salubrious environment where she has to be dressed.
Yes, and there was also
that was a place that's in public domain.
Yes, but it was underground. So it was below. I'm talking seriously underground, but it was below where.
I mean, you were taken down to the lifts. How do you know you were underground?
Well, I was driven down. There was a slope that we were driven down under, and then it was down there. Me and these five other kids that were there, some boys, some girls, but when we were there, we were sort of in a dazed state, so we weren't communicating with each other.
Do you remember any way of how you were collected?
Really, I only remember all of a sudden being in the van. I don't remember being taken. I just remember all of a sudden being in the van and being sitting in sort of like rows of desks. And then it was very cold, and it wasn't warm. There was no warmth coming from the people that were there. There was a male who was standing by the door, a female at the front dressed, as I was saying, and then somebody would bring round. But it wasn't a Rubik's Cube though, but it was like an unfold. It was like there's something called Rubik's Magic, and it's where you unfold it like this, and then you have to put it in again and fold it to try and make. And they were doing tests to see how fast certain ones were able to do it.
That explains. It's one way of testing a form of visual conceptual thinking.
Yes. And I felt like, but when they put it down initially, I was like, what am I supposed to do? I have no clue what I'm supposed to do. And then they said, just do it. And then I started touching it. And as soon as I started touching it, I immediately knew how to do it. And I did it very fast. So some of the other kids, and the kids were at the time when this was going on were about 5, 6, 7 years old. So I was looking back at a previous memory rather than something that was happening now.
Is this painful to remember?
It's because it's so because it doesn't fit into the timeline of what I thought my life was. It's sort of very confusing. It doesn't make sense. Who allowed that to happen? Why was that okay? Where were my parents at the time? I remember, and this sort of ties in as well, when I was living in Lewis, which is in Sussex as well, I was very close friends with a little girl. Her name was Meredith Kennedy. And I was very close with her. Both of her parents were scientists. And often they used to take her and I to Sussex University lab. There was a lab there. And I remember getting in the car and being driven there, but then when we'd get driven there, the mother or the father would leave, and then we'd be left in the car, and then some strange things would happen in the car. I kept thinking the car was rolling, and then sort of went dizzy, came back again, but I have flashes of memory going inside of the lab. Now, recently I've looked into it more, and Sussex University is an arm. There's an arm of Tavistock that works right out of Sussex University. And my very close friend at the time, Meredith Kennedy, her mother also worked for Stanford Research Institute. So she used to go back and forth from Stanford to Sussex University. And Stanford then was actually continuing the work that Tavistock had done. Which began by Freud and some other ones there, so that they could completely understand how to split the mind and basically program one personality into the left brain and one personality into the right brain, where each one, it's sort of similar to trauma-based mind control, where you create alters. But this was very specific, so they would play.
So they could do that without the trauma?
This particular one was being done without trauma. I mean, there was enough trauma that I was left there without.
So it's not working. The trauma thing is a crude way of doing it.
The trauma. They're not really interested in they're interested in trying out all different types of methods. This particular one, which was done by a doctor called Robert Spiers, Sperry. And he was one of the Nazi scientists. And what he wanted to try and do was to see if he could play sounds, words, stories, music to one side of the brain, and then play completely separate one to the other side of the brain. So then it confuses the brain and splits it off. So then you can program one and program the other, which then creates massive confusion as the child gets older, because it's not sure whether it's coming or going, sort of thing. This also induces addiction, because then they created pharmaceuticals that were specifically made for people who'd gone through that trauma. A lot of the opiates that were created in the United States were made specifically because they knew that these kids were going to search that out and find it and become addicts to it.
And this is important because in the Channel 4 program, Confession to an Alien Abductee, they made a big issue of Chantel and the Kentucky Fried Chicken. So the placement of Kentucky Fried Chicken with the special mix in that, it's been described by others as an abduction food.
Really?
Yes. So the use of that could be a double trigger.
So KFC in itself is a basic anagram of fuck, right? If you just switch those around the other way. Also,
is the old grandfather image on that a trigger as well?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. And the grandfather image on there, if somebody from Asia looks at this man's face, it looks Asian to them. If a white person looks at it, it looks white to them. Right. So it's very, very cleverly done like that. And the man who was behind KFC doesn't quite look like that, but he was also a master programmer, slave handler, and when the trauma was done by him, you would be shown a face of this KFC, the actual thing. So you'd keep flash that face, so you'd keep being drawn to it.
I have to say that me even mentioning that person's name will trigger her. I'll get a huge amount of abuse immediately for saying
okay.
Because it triggers, and I think that means that relevant people involved in Channel 4 were deliberately triggering, and it should be interesting to note that Marie, Rika Ali, when she was waiting at the station to come down to do the full program she did with me in Wiltshire, met the producer of that program. But anyway, that's a side issue.
Really? Okay.
Totally random issues.
Yes.
Improbable probability.
Yes. Now, towards the end of this thing that happened to me in March, I was spending time with two, a male and a female, who were older than me, 20 years older than me. And I don't want to mention their names because I don't want to cause them any trouble, but I do know that they were assets, and that one of I can mention the name of one of them. His name was James Chandler. And he was maybe in his mid to late 50s. He grew up on an Air Force base. He grew up from when he was...
That's a familiar name. I've heard something like that.
Now, Chandler, you take the C off, you have Handler. Now, when I was going through this massive trauma and this onslaught of memories that came back in March, he said to me, look, come round, everything's going to be fine, come round here. And I was having an extreme, I didn't know where I was. I would wake up, go to my car in the morning. I'd look on the ground of my car, and I would see receipts that said that I bought something at 3 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. And I was sound asleep in bed at that time. So, no, I found the receipts. So what had been happening
was there any dirt in your clothes or anything at all to indicate that you'd been outside? Physically,
I woke up with clothes on, so I had gone out and I had done something and bought something, and I had absolutely no clue. So anyway, I went round to these people's houses, and I sat down on the ground in the house, and this was these two people were there, and I said, Max, why don't you have a lay down? Have a lay down. You know, you don't seem very well. You're bright red. Nothing's. You know, you seem like you need. So I lay down on the ground, put my head on a cushion. As soon as I put my head on the cushion, I felt like I sunk into the ground. I then became paralyzed. I couldn't move my legs or my arms. I couldn't open my eyes, but I could hear everything that was going on. Within about a couple of minutes after that, I could hear bells ringing, and I could hear these things, sort of incense smelling. And I heard a chain like this being, like there was something here, and it was like incense being spun around like this. I heard the changing of clothes, and I heard ringing, stuff like that. Now I heard them talking about that that they had been waiting to place whatever this ritual was going on. They had been waiting for it, and it had to be done in this house, and they were going to try and attempt to place, I don't know what you'd call it. It was some sort of entity that had been locked down for a very long period of time.
What do you mean by an entity locked down?
Okay. Well, when they started to do I was stripped naked, and when they started to do this ritual, there was some form of sex magic going on in the ritual, and then I felt something. I heard sounds, and I felt something being placed into my body.
Now, before we get there, what you say? What sort of creature? What's a long time? Any idea?
Well, I saw it in my mind's eye, and what I saw in my mind's eye was an enormous maybe sort of a minotaur-looking being with two horns, muscular, red, green, and it had been shackled, had been chained by its ankles, chained here like this, and I could smell burning rock. I could smell it very, 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 very strongly, but I couldn't move. Okay, then I saw whatever was going on, then was projected and put in, layered slowly over with the words that were being said. I heard chanting and words that were being said that was layered into, that somehow attached to my chakra energy points, because I was at a weak point. Generally, when you're at your weakest point is when they'll go for it and do it. Then I blacked out, nothing more. The next thing I know, I'm sitting on a couch. I'm sitting back on a couch, and I feel extremely powerful. I feel like I want to jump up and run a marathon. I felt so strong. Now, the woman came in, and she said to me, Max, you haven't been doing too well. Why don't you take a drink of this? I go, what is it? She said, it's electrolytes, and it's this, and it's that. And it was bubbling, and it was in a cup like that. And I had a feeling inside of me that said, do not drink this, because if you drink it, it's going to reinforce whatever has been done and you will be stuck. So I was sitting there with it for about 5 or 10 minutes, and she was saying, why haven't you drank it? Why haven't you drank it? And I sipped it and it tasted unusual. She came in again and I spilt it all everywhere on the ground. She panicked like that, went left, went back and made another one and brought it in. And this time I did drink it. And after I drank it, I was sitting there for more. I felt like the feelings I had were like I could get up, I could lift up. I had extreme strength. Okay? So I was left there. Then the other guy, whose name is Jamin.
Could you actually lift things up?
Yes. Yes, I felt like my strength has increased by 5-10 times.
So you essentially seem to have been programmed with the strength of a Minotaur. And a Minotaur being half human, half bull?
Yes. Then they brought me some food. Okay? They said, look, you've got to eat. When I tried to eat a sandwich, they brought me a Subway of all things. When I took a bite of the Subway tasted like burning metal. Every time I took a bite out of it, it tasted like burning metal. So I spat it out and put it on the ground. Now I asked myself in my head what's going on, and then something said to me, you're tasting that because the thing that has been placed inside of you has been biting on these chains for thousands and thousands of years, and now you have taken on that inside of you, so everything is going to taste like that. But not to worry, it's only going to last 3 days, and it'll be gone, and you'll feel fine again. So this that went on 2 hours later. After that, something happened and my body went rigid, and whatever was inside of me was rejected and left. And then I felt it walked out. I mean, it left me, and
how did it do it?
It's sort of like I felt whatever it was couldn't stick. Or it didn't stick, and sort of moved out like that. At that point, this guy James Chandler brought a picture of somebody who's related to me over and showed me this picture, and then they said, if it doesn't stick in you, it will certainly stick in him, and don't worry about that, it's failed for you. So then as it's failed, then you need to be taken out. And so then I got this terrible fear that I'm
going to kill you.
Yes. And so this went on, and I went back into the other room and crashed out and fell asleep again. When I fell asleep again, there was 2 officers, what seemed like Nazi officers, standing either side of me.
And what uniforms did they have?
They had the old World War II uniforms, from what I can understand. The stereotypical Nazi World War II uniforms, and they were standing either side of me. And they had told me that what's going on right now is that there have been 100-year war battles for the last 1,000 years. And at the turn of every century, these wars are won or lost. And each time, and he said that this particular faction had been winning for time after time after time after time. They said they set up all of the Formula One wins, all the World Cup wins were all set up to show how much in power they are.
Yeah.
Okay, and
they seem to have a lot of horse racing. They seem to have magical logos on them.
Yes.
In horse racing.
Yeah, and it's basically a ritual every time. But they showed me the seals over where they'd won. So they were gold seals, up one on top of the other, on top of the other. And they said that the final battle is now happening now, and they were already in a position to win. And they were thanking me, and I said, well, look, I don't know, I haven't done anything, I don't know anything about it. And they said, because you don't remember yet. Then I crashed out of sleep again. I haven't ever talked about the smiles. I crashed out of sleep again. Then there was a thing, it looked like a gargoyle, but it was as big as this room, and had black wings, like bat wings. Picked me up like this, pulled me back away from the earth like that. So I saw the earth like this. There were rings around the earth, different colored rings around the earth. And this thing pointed out, each one of these was thought prisons, were a thought prison. And he said, it doesn't matter which one of the people on this planet get caught up. It doesn't matter which thought prison they get caught up in, whether it's Scientology, whether it's Christianity, whether it's atheism, it doesn't make any difference. As long as you are magnetically drawn to one of them, we have you. And he explained
See, and we have to be careful with the thought prisons, and always, ask ourselves to be true to our heart. Before he goes on, last year, I was in the swimming pool because, as you know, I'm in the dolphin program, which I call Crystal Gates because I have memories of crystal cities under there and everything. But there was a gentleman who was white, older male. He was in a blue uniform, and I was swimming with a bunch of cops and military people and personnel, and I had my they call it a CIA, what they call briefcase. I've had it since like high school. I don't even remember where I got it. It's a black case, and I had it there. And the man looked at me and said, "Veronica, we will be with you when the scorpion marries the spider." So I'm like, oh my gosh, what the heck? But here we go again with Max. Sorry about the interruptions. It's just, I remember things and I have to tell you guys again.
How all the four prisons were laid around the planet, and he explained how they were made and
How were they made?
they were made with the will of the creator beings that want to keep this place together.
So that is the will of the Archon, or what? Is her name, or does it make any difference if there's a name?
This particular group, I feel the ones who I was talking to were connected to the Alpha Draconis star system. And I do believe that the Aldebaran group and that the Alpha Draconis group are at war. And I believe that it's been an ongoing war for eons and eons and eons. And the Aldebaran group, which is the bullseye, which in the Taurus constellation, where you see the left red eye, that's why you have this symbol all the time. It's an acknowledgement to the Aldebaran people. It's called the Royal Star. All of the British royal family are directly connected to the Aldebaran group. When you're talking bad or good or evil, it's a little difficult at that point, because I think it's perspective of the person, what is bad or good when it comes to that. I think they feel what they're doing is good.
Well, since they're all actually humans, it's from a human perspective.
Exactly. Yes. So they have been using the sun, which is Helios, which is the real name for the sun. The sun, Helios, is the entrance point to get into this 3D realm here. So they're using that as a vortex in-out point.
That's the significance of the 39 steps. But also Saturn. I think you mentioned earlier that Saturn was our original sun.
Well, Saturn was the original sun, yes. Yeah. And Saturn, yes. And Saturn got pushed out. It was, in truth, a more efficient sun and a better sun. But then they caught that sun and imprisoned it. The ring around Saturn is an imprisonment. It's imprisoned. Saturn isn't bad. Saturn is another word for where they take Satan from, because it's the controlling force. It's Capricorn.
But is this related to the ringmakers of Saturn?
Yes, and Lord of the Rings, and the principle is that. So one ring to rule them all would be the ring that's contained that is around Saturn.
Which is, of course, was a key thing in 2001.
Yes. So there were no planes that hit the building. They were holograms.
Why did you switch to that?
Because I was just thinking about 2001, and they were just testing Project Bluebeam out as far as they could. Well, it wasn't even a missile. It was.
What was Project Bluebeam? There's an awful lot of stuff about Project Bluebeam.
Project Bluebeam originally, I think they've been trying to do it for a while, because Michael Talbot wrote that fantastic book, The Holographic Universe, and it gives absolute proof that this particular frequency we're living in is totally holographic, and you can build here through will. If you want to build something, you use your will. If you know what you're doing, you can manifest it that way. That's holographic. Now, what they've been doing for a while is going to Iraq, which is actually Sumer. There is information and ornaments and the spoken word, because when they say the spoken word, it just means a certain frequency, which is the frequency that holds this this together. They were attacking to go to the museums to find that out. Yes, absolutely. And there are only a few people who know how to go there and translate actually what is going on. And obviously they call it Babylon or Sumer, and they say that's the beginning cradle of civilization. It obviously isn't. It's the cradle of what we know as the known timeline we have now.
Which is the whole point of Andy-Power's book, because the Irish, the people on these islands, want to re-civilize Africa and met those who emerged from Giza.
Absolutely, I think it's important to bring up the tribe of Dan, because the tribe of Dan is the line that comes all the way through there from Atlantis. The sources from Atlantis.
I am from the tribe of Dan. Now, if you notice, the tribe of Dan is not really spoken of too much in the Bible because we are the jinns. We are the ones that sat in our boats, and we're pretty much like the gypsies. I was born with blonde hair, then had fiery red hair, as you know, and it's like we have all these gifts, my family too. So they didn't really like us because we didn't honor their gods that they honor here, the man-made ones. So the tribe of Dan is very, very important.
Atlantis, coming through Sumer, Egypt, south of France, all the way up, and now Denmark. There's a huge amount in Denmark, but they're all in islands. Danny Boy is really about old Dan, And
in order to hold Irish time, they've generated this conflict situation, which means they're too busy fighting each other rather than finding out what's going on.
Yes.
But there was this great awakening in the late 1970s, so we'll have to see what happens there.
Yeah. Just what's happening, and there's always this is going in 3,600 year cycles, and that's just one. And then there's even an even bigger cycle than that. And right now, we're at a window opening point where you can, if you know what you're doing, get out of this cycle, this soul trapping cycle thing that we've got caught into.
Which is what you referred to in the opening remarks of when we met in Canterbury.
Mm-hmm. In terms of the key was symbolic. Yeah, the key was symbolic. I found out, since my grandmother died, there were a lot of secrets in my family, and I found out a lot of different things that I really needed.
And since the last discussion, we're actually in your grandmother's apartment.
Yes, we're here now. Yeah, yes. And I came across a few things that really helped me put into perspective what's gone on with me, and the Freemasonic connections and the Templar connections, Rosalind Chapel, and Roswell, actually, that's actually connected. So
there's a Masonic connection with this alleged crash at Roswell.
Yes.
A ritual. There always is, I suppose.
Yeah. So I mean, even what I really was looking at for the longest time is the Priory of Sion, and I think that if you can really break down what's going on with the Priory of Sion, you can have a very good idea about. Okay, so the Holy Grail is not a literal object. The Spear of Destiny is not a literal object.
So the Holy Grail is pretty much in contact directed with the 13 family bloodlines and Camelot. And when I was in 4th grade, I won Estates and Capital little thing that me and this little boy were chosen to go watch the movie of the Raiders of the Lost Ark. And a lot of well-known people, which I can't name them right now, but they say that the Raiders of the Lost Ark is real, the first one. Like all the secrets with the Germans and all that, and et cetera, et cetera. So our blood is very important. It has all the secrets. We hold the key. That's what he's talking about.
Is not a literal object. These are symbolic of the Spear of Destiny is symbolic of a phallus, and the Holy Grail is symbolic of a vagina. So,
and what's the point of the symbolism there? Really, why this great symbolism?
Because those beings communicate in that way. They don't communicate in the linear way. Everything that they do is done through their language is symbol. They speak through symbols. Even as hieroglyphs, they're symbols. That's how they communicate. It's a much more efficient way of getting across information than using the Western alphabet, which is crap.
Well, we leave it at that for the second, and we'll get into the second half.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'll go ahead and list the videos here, okay? Love you guys, and whoever wants to be on the show. This week, I'm going to have Victoria Plank on the 18th. Let's see, Christy Campbell on the 24th, and Tom Althouse on the 8th of August. So if anybody wants to do, yes, ACIO, yes, Peter the Insider gave me my records verbally. And I have a video on that on my Codebreaker channel, and I can go ahead and list that as well. I was taken by German scientists that were kicked out, and I was used in Mexico and here in Tucson and Los Angeles, Tennessee, Las Vegas, all over the place. So I'll go ahead and list that as well. Thank you, all of you, Ruby, Sharon, Silvia, all of you guys. Thanks for being here. And like I said, you have my email now. So if you guys want to be on the show for a round table, just for you guys to talk about your experiences, go ahead and email me and we'll set up a time. I love you all so much. We'll see you soon.